and how these narratives affect visitor experience at and an understanding of the site. She has worked at the Ermatinger, Clergue National Historic Site of Sault Ste. Marie and Banting House National Historic Site of Canada, where she continues to volunteer. She is a huge fan of storytelling and has enjoyed many hours creating and writing stories with her friends. Quirky fact. Since she was 9 or 10, she has wholeheartedly believed that the best and cutest animals are, take a wild guess.
Not even close.
Bears.
No.
Pigeon.
Camels. Manatees.
Neanderthals.
It is a bat. Alison loves bats and she thinks they're cute. She will explain later, but please welcome Alison.
Oh, that's your turn. And you're done. Awesome. Great. Everybody's getting a sneak preview. Okay, I'll just tell you briefly. I had to do a project about bats in grade 5, and since then they have been the love of my life. So, which is why there's a bat on the slide, and I felt that I need to represent. There's also a bat on my name tag, so that's, you've seen me and wondered why there's something very strange on it. That's what it is.
Just have to talk really fast, okay?
Whoa.
That's okay. We can't do it, that's fine. I can go without the slides. We'll all just have to imagine and picture things that.
Go for it.
Awesome. Okay, so yeah, my name's Alison, and I wanted to come here today to tell you a story, and that story just happens to be about storytelling. So after years of being a student and working at Ermatinger Clergue National Historic Site and Banting House National Historic Site of Canada, I've come to the conclusion that people learn and understand better through the use of stories than they do when just presented with clinical facts and figures. Now, formal research has been done on storytelling with different groups around the world, but I'm of the opinion we can see its importance in our daily lives. And if you think about children, either your own or interactions you've had with children, or your own childhood, you can probably remember hours spent telling stories. And that's because storytelling is a huge pastime for us. And we use these stories to teach children little morals, and they sort of pass on from generation to generation, like stories like Boy Who Cried Wolf or The Ant and the Grasshopper. And these stories have morals in them, but sometimes they aren't always readily apparent, and sometimes the listeners just sort of has to wait a little while for them to see what's coming up. And that's because, got very distracted, sorry. It's not personal. The meaning of the story isn't necessarily told until after the fact. And this way, the story traces a path for the listener, but they aren't always necessarily readily apparent. So the meaning of the story is allowed to be grown into instead of just being traced directly for the listener. Now, I want to offer a short anecdote about museums, not only because I think they're vitally important and super cool, but also because I feel like probably almost everybody here has been to a museum at some point in their life, right? Yeah? Okay.
Yes.
So, I'm going to suggest two very broad, very arbitrary categories for museums, and these are label and tell museums versus what I would call story museums. And label and tell museums generally have little plaques like this out, telling you what the artifact is, where it's from, maybe who found it or who donated it, and what it's made of. Now, story museums have larger plaques with text on them, and these often depict some part of the history or tell you more about the artifact or the events that took place around artifacts like this. And don't get me wrong, I think they're label and tell museums, there's nothing wrong with them. They let you use your imagination and you can get to learn a lot of stuff from them. But I feel like if you're given a bit more substance at the museum, you can take a bit more away. Now, that can also be where interpretation comes in. So let me tell you, if you think a museum is playing up the story aspect of their site, you that they do it, it's also for the interpreter. And that's because they have to remember lots and lots of really difficult facts sometimes. And if you use a story, it makes their job a lot easier, and they're able to get things across to you a lot easier as well. So this is a picture from Ermatinger, Clergue National Historic Site. And that site was built by Charles Ermatinger, and he was a merchant. And he and his wife, Mananawi, came to Sault Ste. Marie in 1812, and I'm from Sault Ste. Marie, to set up a way station along the voyageur route between Montreal and Thunder Bay. And they were looking to trade for beaver pelts, obviously, because everybody wanted their nice felt beaver felt hat. That drove a lot of people crazy, but that's okay. And if I was giving a tour, I would get into the system of trade and how the points on a Hudson's Bay blanket like this refers to the number of beaver pelts you would need to use to purchase the blanket. So this one would cost about 4 beaver pelts. And then we would go on through the history of the house, and I would use the furniture that's in the house to get into the history of Charles Ermatinger and the other people that lived there, as well as Francis Hector Clergue. And by making this visit more like a story for you, I would be able to pass along information that you're probably going to remember a lot better than if I just told you that Charles Ermatinger had 13 children and so many of them died, and this person lived here from this day to this day. It's a lot easier for you to remember if I make it more relatable and make these people actually seem real. So, in the end, what's sort of the moral of the story? And that's that stories are absolutely everywhere, and that even if you don't think you necessarily took anything away from me standing up here for 5 minutes blabbing about some house in Sault Ste. Marie, the stories do stick, and in a couple of days maybe you'll remember things, and things will come together for you. And just saying, everybody that's up here tonight is telling you a story. So, thank you.